Good morning, guys. How are we all doing? Hi, I'm Dan from Trading with Dan. This is our Bitcoin morning update, post Fed update. So yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, we shall go straight over to those Bitcoin 4-hour charts. So Bitcoin on the 4-hour, we are still operating within this descending triangle. At the lows, which is clearly a bearish formation off the back of obviously a bearish move down. However, we are actually operating at what would be the top side of the descending triangle, the top side of the downward sloping trend line. So obviously that gives us an opportunity to break through. We did have basically a nice bounce yesterday off the back of the Fed. What really got the markets going was a point in the press conference where Jerome Powell was asked words to the effect of what would happen if obviously economic conditions were to change or markets were to take a diver, and then he was just like, well, we would just basically continue, we'll just reverse what we're doing. So I mean, that is literally as good a signal as you need that the Fed still has the back of the markets. We are not watching paint dry, as I think it was Ben Bernanke said back in the day. We're not watching paint dry here. We are literally. In fact, it was Powell that said watching paint dry. That basically what they're saying is that nothing was going to change the course of the tightening straight tapering. But let's not get confused with tightening and tapering, because tapering is not tightening. Tapering is just a less easing. Like they are basically still easing. They're just not easing as much. So we are still in a market where we have increased liquidity each month. It is just the rate of change, but ultimately the rate of change is one of the most important factors for all economic data sets for predicting future prices. The rate of change is the most important. The sine curve is obviously one of the most important curves basically to look at to see what is going to happen going forward. And obviously the rate of change of liquidity, of added liquidity, is clearly reducing and faster now. So yeah, we probably still have a more time for markets to go up because we still have liquidity. Then the markets can potentially have a tantrum, and the Fed has basically said, well, we'll reverse it all and just obviously increase the bond buying again. As for the rate hikes next year, I mean, it's pretty much, I think it's pretty much BS, but the market obviously is pricing in those for the time being. The futures markets anyway, with the rate futures markets, that is. I mean, it doesn't particularly look like stock markets are pricing it in, but yeah, we shall see what has to happen going forwards. Ultimately, there is the element of inflation is clearly bad for a lot of people, but inflation is clearly good for the system as a whole. Just for keeping asset prices up, keeping collateral still worth something, and also inflating away the massive debts in the system. So net basically, inflation is massively required, and it doesn't really matter about the poor people that are going to struggle to feed themselves. They are less relevant to basically the people in control of the system that make the decisions. So yeah, we shall see what happens, but ultimately it's bullish news. We are at some inflection points for crypto. We can see we obviously, if we break above this down sloping trend line, and then probably more importantly above this $50,000 area, then I think it will be off to the races. To be honest, we will probably find our way back above 53,000 over the next week or so, and then yeah, I think confidence will come back in. This whole down move will have been reversed, would have put in a reversal, and then we will be basically looking for new highs. If we want to have a look over at Ethereum Satoshi pairing, this Ethereum obviously clearly has been moving up more than Bitcoin. I mean, this is basically what these green candles are. It has hit an important level here though. So we are still at a level where we can reject here, have a head and shoulders, and then well, I said nice move down, but a substantial move down in this. We are also, as you can see, at a level where we can reject and come down here. And then if we actually look at the Ethereum USD pairing as well, we have actually just got above this important horizontal, back above 4,000. But if we were to come back below, it would just look like a swing failure, and then we'd see acceleration to the downside. So just looking at the charts, we are clearly far from out the woods, and we're just basically at a level where sellers can potentially come back in and start taking aggressive short. So we'll have to see what happens. Bitcoin dominance also, we'll have a look at that. We can see back below this resistance also. But what I think we have to kind of look at mainly is obviously this. The stock market on its way to basically new all-time highs, probably and it hasn't printed this futures market hasn't printed a new all-time high, just not quite printed above this wick here. But I mean, like we've been saying, this is looking bullish. This is looking like it is going to head its way up towards well, 4,900 plus, and that is gonna drag crypto and obviously all other risk assets kicking and screaming to the upside, along with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin potentially, with obviously been high beta, moves more to the downside, moves more to the upside, why it's been whacked more than stocks, and which potentially why it will potentially rally more than stocks, because I mean, if nothing else, we don't have the same liquidity that obviously the S&P has. But yeah, realistically speaking, we have a reprieve here for all the bearishness that was going on. And bearishness, I mean just obviously inflation, which was then feeding through to the Fed having to do something, and the Fed's not really done something. And it said basically if anything interrupts the upward procession of markets, then it will reverse everything it's doing anyway. So DXY also took a little bit of a hit on that, so we'll see if this does reverse this trend and it just started to drift down. But ultimately I mean, I don't even really know what sales say. Ultimately, the trend is your friend, and this is clearly going upwards. I mean, it would have to be a reversal of the trend, but we shall see. If the Fed is going to obviously more actively talk about the fact it's not realistically going to be fighting inflation, or the market believes that it's just jawboning and not realistic going to start fighting inflation, then maybe this will start to come down. But at the moment, the market doesn't really know what to make of a lot of what's going on. We are obviously at a period of macro indecision, where we're not just in a big reflation, easy money, extra liquidity every month phase. We're at a potential topping, but is it a top that then basically ruins things and then gets reversed, and then we just carry on with that crack up boom, or is it a top that literally is the end of the bubble of everything? We shall see. Yeah, Nas coin as well, as you can see, having a nice bit of a pump up here, but obviously far from well, not far from its highs, but further from its highs in the S&P. What else do we want to look at? Gold, not really doing too much. I mean, it's obviously a good that gold did get back above this resistance, this support area after dipping below, but you can still is not really doing much here. Oil as well, not really doing a lot, but back above that trend line again. Can it now start? Can we have a mini reflation another couple of months into Q1, maybe even Q2, just on the basis that things do last longer than you think? And a lot of the predictions for late Q1, basically end of the party, are based just obviously on the Fed's projected stances, obviously, with the reduction of liquidity and the dot plot for rate rises. However, that can change. Maybe inflation does start to ease, and then obviously they will not have to be so aggressive with that. Lots of things can change between now and then. Markets are fast moving, and especially when we're at a volatile period. So yeah, things can definitely change here. So yeah, what else we look at? 10-year, not really doing a lot, which is probably good. Really, not really reacting much to this, just hovering around this area. Not really much else we want to look at here. The main takeaways will be the fact that we need to break this downward sloping trend line, and then 2 above 50,000. And then you can still see we're only within this sideways range. We have still got to take out 53,000 before we do start to actually look like we are fully putting in reversal here, and then going to the upside. These are just these are the early shoots, the green shoots of recovery. That was it, the green shoots of recovery. A Gordon Brown saying from back in the day. Yeah, just the green shoots. If we do look at the Ethereum Satoshi pairing, again, it has got work to do here if it wants to break up. I mean, Bitcoin hasn't really done a lot. It's just operating within this triangle. So it maybe isn't a surprise to see Ethereum outperform Bitcoin with this move, because realistically this is just sideways consolidation. If Bitcoin does break this trend line, break 50,000, does start to accelerate, potentially Ethereum will get rejected from this level and come back down, if it potentially will not be able to keep up with Bitcoin. But ultimately, when Bitcoin then stabilizes, we'll then expect this to get going again. But again, this is at a resistance point. Ethereum is just by the skin of its teeth pretty much holding above 4,000, although its area is actually starts around 3,900. And then ends just below 4,000. Its area it's got to hold. But yeah, we have got all to play for. Let's watch what this does into the end of this week. Looking very risk on, looking like we can squeeze the last bit of juice for the next few months out of this long trade, before we do start to have to really assess what we're doing with our lives. Let's finally look at Stochastics. 4 hour moving up, has moved up nicely, looking a little bit tired here, but we've got to be looking at these other ones now to be taking the reins. 10 hour will be moving up nicely if it decides to load. 10 hour, look, you see moving up nicely, looking to get into the bullish half as well. 12 hour pointing up here as well. I can't exactly say moving up nicely. Daily turn back up here also. 2 day moving up here, 3 day faltering a bit here, but still obviously pointing up. 5 day and weekly still diving. At some point these will have to change, but I'm guessing we're going to need to be well above 50,000 for that. And then obviously bi-weekly and monthly looking good. So realistically speaking, 12 hour daily get going. But like I have been saying more recently, I don't particularly think it's going to be these stochastics that does it for us. It's going to be just the actual technical chart patterns, breaking this descending triangle, breaking above these horizontals, breaking back up into this higher range. It's realistically just these levels and these chart patterns that I think we're going to have to bust on through to start to basically reverse this market. But there is, like I said, there is all to play for. We have the market has fully digested its worst nightmares, and now has realized it's not as bad as what it seems, or far from as bad as what it seems. So maybe we can start to get moving if stocks do break onwards and upwards from here today and tomorrow. We've got to expect this Bitcoin to break above 50,000 and beyond, and at which point the technicals will then just drive us further up. So yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. Remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own research, and I shall speak to you guys soon.